Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Real Talk. But today we're getting into a quick and dirty conversation, as Aroha puts it, with the Coastal Collective crew. So today we are going to talk about all the things we hate in our business, but how we manage them, because that's the joys of being an entrepreneur. Especially when you're first starting out, you end up wearing all the freaking hats. And you do end up having to do things, but there will come a time when you realize, maybe there's a different way I could manage this. So we're all going to just briefly talk about a few of the things that showed up in our business that we realized were not our favorite thing to do, but are a necessary evil to the work that we do. So let's start first with Jessica. What is something in your work that you absolutely hate, but you either outsource or do it yourself, and how do you get yourself through it?
Anything in the back end of business. So if it's scheduling programs, if it's I can make a pretty website, but getting into the SEO and the technical stuff, numbers, math, bookkeeping, all that stuff, hate it, hate it, hate it. So I realized that my time is better spent and I can actually make more money if I'm doing what I love, which is doing my sessions, connecting with my clients and networking, and then hiring people to do the stuff I don't like to do. That's why lovely Miss Kayla here, who's with us, is my virtual assistant. And so she takes care of my booking calendar and just make sure everything is right and I'm not double booking and, putting in promotional codes and all that stuff. And same with the bookkeeper, paying someone to do my taxes and to keep my books, because I literally asked my bookkeeper, I'm like, what is the treat me like I'm 5 and hold my hand fee? I want that package. And she keeps trying to empower me to use QuickBooks and stuff. And I'm like, no, honey, this is never, ever going to happen. I will gladly pay you your money to make it go away so I don't have to deal with it.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think so before you started outsourcing, because obviously we do have to pay people when we outsource. So what did it take for you, or at what point were you like, it doesn't even matter how much this costs, like take it away?
The taxes and money was immediate. I didn't care. I would find the money. I would make the money. I would take a loss if it meant somebody doing that for me, because I have absolutely no idea how to do any of that. I can't number, I can't math. It's not my forte. So that was an immediate thing. Everything else I tried to make do with and do the best I could with, for as long as I could. But once I started getting busier, I realized that I couldn't maintain that busyness, or I couldn't grow beyond where I was without spending money and getting the help.
Perfect. Awesome. Aroha, what do you hate in your business and how do you manage it?
So there are a few things that I dislike in my business. One of them, very similar to Jess, anything to do with numbers, accounting, that kind of stuff. I can do it. I've done it before. I did it in numerous businesses back in Australia and realized I do not like it. So that means to say I then obviously get somebody that is really good at it and knows my business inside out. Sorry, I don't know what's happening today. My voice is not cooperating. Yeah, so that was one thing that I immediately was like, no, I'm not doing this. It causes me too much headache. I literally put all my receipts in a bag and I give them to my accountant and she takes care of it. So that was off the hop, something that I knew that I didn't want to do. The other thing was, again, having multiple businesses on the go is having someone like Kayla. Now, Kayla's also my virtual assistant and the virtual assistant for Coastal as well. And she takes care of the back end stuff for me, is because I, like Jess, am better off at I'm more used on my camera. That's where I'm going to make my money. And then, I hand these problems to Kayla and she miraculously makes them disappear, which is wonderful. The other thing that I struggle with a lot is editing. I don't like to edit. I find sitting in front of the computer all day, skin retouching or toning and culling and all those things. I do not like it. This past year, I haven't had to do much of it because I haven't had clients. So I went back and I pulled out some older work that's never seen the light of day, and just to see where I was at with it, and I still dislike it. So, so again, you know, you get the services of folks that can help you, professional retouches and whatnot. I will say one thing though, is that if you are looking to introduce any kind of professional into your business, to establish really good, solid relationships with them, because they are literally taking over your baby. And at first, especially with the editing stuff, and it still comes up from time to time because Chad, Jessica's partner, he's been my editor for numerous years, and I drop on and I drop off, and you know, I give him work and then I take it back, and then I'm just toing and froing. That's a me issue. That's a control issue that I have over my work, not actually his skills, but I trust him implicitly to do the job. It's just I have a difficult time letting go. So it's really important that when you're ready to make the move or the shift into getting these people into your business, that you are comfortable with it and that you trust them with it as well. Because if you can just feel like you can walk away and have a breather for a little bit, they're worth their weight in gold to help you do that. Because I think it's important that we do actually do that from time to time. You don't have to be in it constantly 24/7. You can step back and let somebody else take the reins where you may not have the ability to, especially with family stuff. You know, when family stuff comes up or you're taken away for a particular reason that's beyond your control, knowing that you have these people in place, right, to be able to be there and stabilize your business while other things in your life may not be stable. I think that's really important too. So yeah, mine, accounting, editing, back end stuff, emails. I talk way too long in emails, and Kayla's like, you don't need to give them 3,000 paragraphs. You just need to tell them, doop, doop, doop. And I'm just like, you're right. Here's the emails. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that kind of stuff anyway.
All right, Kayla, what do you hate about, you can talk about it from the end of being a VA if you want. What do you hate about your job and how do you manage it?
Inside of my own business, because I spend a lot more of my time handling the affairs of other businesses, my own accounting, I hate it. I put everything in a shoebox, and then every year in January, I'm like, I should pull out that shoebox. And every year in January, I'm like, I should do this differently. Not once. I do have someone who does my taxes for me, but I do all the accounting myself. So that is not my favorite job. Usually results in my table being full of crap for weeks. This year I started it, and then I went out of the province for 2 weeks, and I came home to a table that was still full of shit. So I had to finish it when I got home.
Oh.
So yeah, inside my own business, that's certainly one of the struggles. It's my own fault, but nonetheless, that's a problem. I mean, for other businesses and my own, because I do have photography clients as well who are completely separate from any of my VA work, the people who are challenging can be very challenging. Sometimes you get clients who think they're right about everything, or they think they know everything, or they don't like your answer. And that's going to apply across the board. It doesn't really matter what kind of business you have. Well, as the old adage goes, the customer's always right. No, they're not.
No,
Usually they're not.
wrong.
So some of those situations can be really difficult. Something I do in those situations, you just go and talk to somebody else about it. You know, maybe someone else who's familiar, maybe if it's with another business. Oftentimes everybody agrees that a particular client might be more difficult than another client. And so you can commiserate a little bit, get it off your chest before you can spend the proper time sending them a proper reply. Because I mean, you might want to lash out at them, but that's not going to get anybody anywhere. So yeah,
That's
that's there you go.
That's a good one. Even when they're right, no, they're wrong. Okay. And then for me, what do I hate about my business and what do I do about it? Similar to everyone else, the accounting stuff, just as I mentioned in the last video, is not my forte. Numbers are not my strength. But for the first few years, I tried to make it fun. I even had Tax Tuesdays, where I would sit down and open my spreadsheet once a quarter, because that's the only way I was able to do my taxes. And I would literally cry. It was not fun. I would cry. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I just need an accountant. And I was like, she wrote back and was like, okay, it's $250 or something. And I was like, I was ready to pay you $2,000 a month. And you're telling me it's $250 for a quarter? Holy Hannah. Like, it ended up being so much more cost effective. I was like, what have I been doing for the last 2 years? But it got to the point where I dreaded the end of the quarter, because I knew that I would push everything. I would procrastinate, as we do with things like editing, same kind of thing. But here's the thing, I love editing. And I remember going to a workshop and everyone was like, ugh, I hate it. And I was like, what? Like, I thought all photographers loved editing because I did. And they were like, no. I was like, oh, I find it's like coloring, but okay. But anyways, so that's the big one, is that. The other thing is actually maybe not so much related to the business, but housework as well, like keeping the house clean or keeping the studio clean. I hate cleaning with a passion. And my VA is virtual. That's why they're a VA. So they are not in my studio, or I don't have a studio now, but before, and I would have to vacuum like all the time. And we had a workshop at Aroha's studio and she was very mean about cleaning and I didn't like it. She's got very high standards. I was like, it's good enough. No, good enough is not good enough. But so that I used to have an assistant in person, because I was like, I hate cleaning, you love cleaning, let's make a deal. Like, you will get photo shoots and I will let you clean my studio. And it worked out perfectly fine. But like houseworky things, like, that's just not fun for me. I don't do it at home, and I definitely didn't do it at my studio. So that was something that I realized, that it would either get to the point where it was so messy that I couldn't handle it, that I would just binge clean. Does that make sense? So it was just easier to bring somebody in and offer a trade or something like that. So those are the main things for me. Other than that, I like figuring stuff out. I like software. I like, building websites and figuring stuff out, but just not doing it forever. That's my thing. I'm like, I like to do it for a little bit, teach other people how to do it, then move on to the next thing. So that's my struggle currently, is being consistent is not my forte, which is why I also have a VA who is really great to keep things running consistently while I have grand ideas about what's next. But having somebody there to be able to run the show, make sure emails are consistent, everything going out is exactly the same, so your clients all get the exact same experience, which is really important. Yes, Aroha, do you have a question?
Hand up over here. Actually, one thing that I didn't mention, which is my absolute arch nemesis, and I can't believe I didn't even bring it up, maybe it's because it causes me so much trauma, is social media. Social media, you triggered it by saying consistency, and that is my biggest that is one of my strengths, is consistency usually. Or when it comes to social media, it's such a massive block for me, that I just can't. I have tried doing it myself. I have bought all of the programs, all of the software things. It's ridiculous, right? I have employed people to do my social media, and again, because I'm quite a control freak, I have to have it done a particular way, which I know something is better than nothing. I remember that coming from you, Terry. doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it out there and be consistent. I'm still working on that one, let me tell you. But social media has been honestly the biggest struggle for me in the past couple of years. I come on, I drop off, so that consistency piece that is actually one of my strengths usually. Yeah, with social media, it doesn't happen and it drives me up the wall. So right now, you'll probably be seeing a few things coming out through the coastal groups and through email and our socials and Instagram. That's me trying to show up in social media. So please bear with me. It's a struggle. These folks will tell you how much of a struggle because I don't even know how to post on Instagram half the time. But
To be fair, she barely knew how to press record on this video, so it's okay.
right?
It's all a learning curve.
It's all a learning curve. But yeah, so that's been a big one for me. I just wanted to put that out there because I know that there are a lot of people right now with all of the things that are going on in socials with the algorithms and people not getting reach and all that kind of stuff. I feel you, man. I feel it.
Well, I think too, a lot of the things, especially creative people struggle with, or like we dislike so much, are things that do require consistency in business. Like doing your taxes requires consistency of, collecting your receipts and putting them in the same spot with the other receipts and not having them in 5,000 different locations all the time. And then making meetings where you talk to certain people at certain times. These are the parts of business that require consistency, which are the more draining aspects of being a creative entrepreneur, I think, because we tend to be flighty and floaty. But the reality is if you want to be flighty and floaty, that's fine, but that's not the greatest way to run a business because brands require consistency. Because consistency equals loyalty, and that's what your clients are expecting from you. And so I think that's where I guess the overall takeaway from this video for everyone is that yes, there are going to be things that you absolutely detest and hate, and that's absolutely okay. You are not alone in those things, but find a strategy or find a support group or person that's going to be able to help you take things to that consistent level so you yourself can still be flighty and floaty, but your business remains consistent and loyal to your client. I think is probably the biggest point of all of this. Yeah,
absolutely. I would 110% agree with that statement.
Yeah, because if we leave things too long, like it's just like my studio, if I left it too long, it'd be messy and no client wants to come in for a luxury experience. And there'd be like clothes laying everywhere and the vacuum or the carpet hadn't been vacuumed or whatever, that's not being consistent to the brand that I put out. So it's very important to figure out the processes that you need to have in place in order to build a sustainable business. And if you yourself struggle with that, then it's so important to find people to do that. And there are a few organizations or people that I know, like obviously Kayla is a good person to support, but we also have I use the VAs through Jen Swedine's Get Shit Done, Team Get Shit Done. There's a whole team of people and a whole suite of products to be able to help you keep things consistent. Meat Pepper is another great organization that helps creative, specifically photographers, figure out their processes and keep things not only consistent, but also engaging, which is really important. So there are different things out there. So if you know of any, feel free to put them in the comments below because sharing is caring. And the more people know, the better we can help make everybody's businesses more successful. All right, my friends, that is it for this quick and dirty chat. And yeah, you can look forward to more of these kinds of things, I think, going forward. But thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
See you, everyone.